Hello everyone. How are you today? So the topic to be presented is going to be a discussion about the soul and the universe we live in. And this could take a couple of videos, probably many, to go through, but we're going to start. And I'd like for us to think about the universe a little bit like a computer game, and that there are these great creator beings, which I have often said were the firstborn. And these firstborn beings, very powerful, very God-like beings, created universes. And among those universes, it's sort of a step down energy to where they gave birth to matter. And when they gave birth to matter, or to a thought process that was in motion or in movement, the physical worlds came into being. And these physical worlds were populated with, you could say, avatars. I'm using this just for terminology because many people are familiar with games. So if we were to look at this world as part of a computer program that was designed with simulated worlds, and all of us had bodies that would be considered avatar bodies, these avatar bodies have been given free will. They aren't robots, they aren't unconscious, they have choice. And that is one of the primary things that is going on in our universe, choice. So as an avatar, these avatars can come and go. They pop in and out of existence all the time. Bodies are abundant in the universe. In fact, the one thing we don't have to worry about is bodies. We have a lot of them. And over time, these great firstborns created physical aspects of themselves. I sometimes have called them in the past rays of light. But these rays of light are actually, you could think of them like a capsule or a bubble. And inside this bubble, we call this the soul, are many, many bodies that the soul creates. And some of these bodies that are living inside the soul are, I would say asleep, but we could just say focused on the one reality that that body was created in. For instance, an earth body. Some of those bodies that live on earth are solely focused on the five senses and what is going on in this reality. They have free will and they are living a wonderful life, totally focused in this reality. There are other bodies that our soul creates that also are doing the same thing in other realms or in other worlds. But there are also bodies that can awaken and become multidimensional beings. And this is the topic that is most interesting to me because I have experienced awakenings into different bodies that my soul has. And I have seen firsthand how you can inhabit other bodies in other realities. And some of these teachings are given in many of our past religions and past masters who have said there are other kingdoms in the heavens, and when you die, you don't take this body, but you go and you live in another place, in another body. And so what is most important for us to realize is that we, as we wake up to the fact that we have more than one body to inhabit, we begin to realize who we really are. And until you know that you are a multidimensional being, you are really still what I would call focused all of your consciousness on just your earth reality. And your consciousness, your human consciousness, can link into and can begin to expand with the whole of your soul. So inside your soul, this bubble we talk about, are all these different bodies. Some of them are awake to the fact that they can move and shift and grow and experience other bodies. Some of them are highly focused on the reality that they were generated into. Like when you create a avatar for a certain world. That avatar may only live in that world, but there are many other worlds and there are many other realities. And so where we are going as a species is to awaken our consciousness beyond the earth realm into understanding that we can inhabit many different bodies while we are still living in this body. I've experienced this firsthand. I can tell you stories about this, and I will, and I would not call it astral travel. For those of you who are familiar with lucid dreaming, out-of-body experiences, astral travel. When we astral travel, or we have those near-death experiences or out-of-body experiences, you are using this personality and this body, and you are stepping outside of the physical part of it, because an energetic blueprint of this body exists in a finer light vibration. And that is often called the astral worlds. Sometimes it's referred to as the heavenly worlds, purgatory, hell. It's got all different levels in it. But the primary thing about the astral worlds, they are temporary and they are focused on a limited belief system of the consciousness that when that consciousness passed over at death, all that it knows of itself was its past life that it had on earth. So when it passes over through death, it knows itself as who it was. And so in the astral worlds, those relatives and friends and people, they continue to live a life similar to the one they lived on earth. And you can travel the astral worlds there's hundreds of books written about astral travel and near-death experiences. And there are realities there that are created for people who die, who are asleep or focused only on earth reality. So I want to not use the word asleep. But they've only been focused on their family, their life here, and when they die, they're looking forward to seeing their relatives on the other side. And so there's a whole reality created for people to pass over there to go be with their great uncles and their aunts and their parents and all their relatives, and they live similarly to how they lived on earth. I visited relatives on the other side. Some of them are living in beautiful farms with lots of animals that they've always wanted, and some of them are living in lives in more palatial looking environments because they always wanted to have a castle or something. But these are astral worlds, and they are not the same as what I am talking about. I'm talking about a reality which is more like a bilocation, where this consciousness can bilocate and inhabit other bodies inside our soul matrix. So if we understand that the universe is conscious and awake and beaming and living fully an experience through mind or consciousness. So everything that is happening in reality is all basically consciousness. And consciousness is creating the stories. It creates the universes. It creates the worlds. It creates the avatars that live in the worlds. Many years ago, I had an experience where I bilocated into a life that I had aboard a spaceship. And I was inhabiting that body. And as I was inhabiting that body, I was fully conscious of myself back then. And some people call this past life, but all lives are going on simultaneously. Nevertheless, inside this body, I knew who I was, and I also was aware of who I was on Earth. And I was also aware I was fully integrating with who I was in this particular reality on a spaceship. And there had been a very large battle. And this battle was in the heavens, and it's been going on for a while. And this particular group that we had been struggling with, we finally defeated. And so there was a truce or a ceasefire, and I was one of the magistrates or judges upon my Syrian ship. I'm from Sirius, another story later. But the Syrians have been involved in this region of the galaxy for a long time. So I was on board this Syrian ship, and I was to give judgment to, well, had been decided by a council, and I was the one to meet with the defeated group. So they came aboard this ship, and it was in a meeting room that would be considered like a judge's chamber perhaps, but it was large, and it had this big altar in the front of me, and it had a button for searching for a word for it, but it was some kind of activation programming switch. And they escorted the other side in, and they stood on the opposite side of this round pillar. And I made the pronouncement of what was going to happen to this large group of warring faction. And when I pressed this button, it became so. And the statement that was made out of my mouth was that these group of beings would be moved 2 levels down from the reality that we were dwelling in. And the level that they were moving down to would be a level that was much more materialistic, had much more reality in a physical way, so that lessons could be learned through the law of attraction, through what you do want and what you don't want. And so this was when I first began to understand that our world is part of a group of planets that are existing at this level, 2 levels down from where I was. And people can say, well, if we're in 3rd dimension, was it like 6th dimension? And there's all kinds of ways to describe it. This is why I was using video games, for example. But at any rate, the level that this took place was more of a peaceful level. It did not have as much struggle and as much consciousness separation and consciousness resistance and conflict. So the decision was made, because these people, kind of like in Star Trek, if anybody remembers the Wrath of Khan, and Khan was, very warring, and so the Star Trek Federation put them on a planet so they could take all that energy, that very warrior energy, and master that planet, build that planet. So a large group of souls were demoted 2 levels to this reality that we're living in now, which includes Earth and a lot of the things you see in the visible universe. So this is where I'd like for us to stop at the moment, and we can continue this discussion in the next video. But for now, the key point is there are levels of reality, and in these different levels are different bodies. And some of the levels, like the level we live in, contrast is very dramatic. In other words, pain and pleasure are high motivators in this reality. So the contrast we feel here is great. Kind of like Khan on his planet in Star Trek, creating a world out of a harsh environment is really the reality this dimension is. So there are other realities, and we will talk about them. There are other bodies, and we can inhabit them, and we will talk about them. So I appreciate that you have taken the time to listen to this first part of our story. And please, if you liked it, please press the like button and subscribe. And we will revisit this topic and continue on in part 2. Thank you.